Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me tonight. Sorry about the 1 minute delay. That was on me. My computer froze on the side. So it's up and working. Everything is fine. I am very happy that I'm doing this on a Monday because the Jets are horrible, and this gives me something to look forward to. I'm super excited to talk with my guest tonight. And before we get started, I do just want to say by the time this is finished recording and posted tomorrow, it will be my 3 year anniversary. So I want to say happy anniversary in advance to my wife, Laura, who is awesome and carries all of this in many different ways and allows me to do this for fun, amongst other things. So I just want to say thank you and love you. And pivoting from that, we are going to go have some fun. I am bringing her on right now, Katee Stein. Hello.
Well, that's pretty cool. Get to be a part of the 3 year anniversary edition of
It's that happy news, and I just love doing this after a rough weekend. Like I had a good weekend otherwise, of like a fun wedding. There was some cool stuff going on. I'm not sure. Are you a sports fan at all or anything?
Baseball. So like this just shows you I'm committed because I'm coming to chat with you, but the Blue Jays are playing right now. It's game 7. It's actually good because I was like, I get way over invested and start yelling at the TV, and so this will I'll just be able to pop in probably right at the end. I got my nice little Blue Jays shout out.
I'm a casual baseball fan, the same way that I am a Jets fan. I'm a Mets fan, and they have been historically awful since I've been alive. So I feel like the big difference is 160 games is too long to be invested in something horrible, whereas the Jets are just once a week horrible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you can just limit your exposure.
Exactly. It's like the same time period, but it's not being miserable 5 times a week. But,
yes, there's a lot of baseball for sure.
There's a lot. But now I'll be pulling for the Blue Jays because I'm very casual and I do not want to see the Dodgers win. I don't like a super team.
Yeah. They've got their work cut out for them tonight with Seattle, and then we'll see if all my fingers and toes are crossed. We'll see.
Fingers crossed with you. The first thing I wanted to ask, because I wasn't 100% sure, I think is a very interesting question. It was a fan question that came in, but your first book, Glass Helix, that actually was published by a small press and ready to go.
Look at me. Did my homework.
So that was published by a small press, and you decided to go for these 2 books, self-pub. What went into that decision, and what were the kind of challenges with making it, and how do you think it's turned out for you?
Let me just talk about the last couple of years of my life. So Glass Helix was, of course I can't remember dates really well. It came out in 2021, I believe. 2022. So and with Stag Beetle Books, and they were great to work with. So it was I had been querying for a couple years before that. You're trying to put your manuscript out and get it picked up, get an agent, whatever. And so this was kind of opened the door into the traditional publishing side, and they just basically, it's they take it out of your hands and you just go through the process with their editors, and that was all great. I ran into a few issues, partly because I'm Canadian and I'm working with an American press, and they're a small press, so it's not like they have printers that everywhere. So it was all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's actually really difficult for me to get books in print up here at a price point that I could sell them easily. So that made in-person marketing really difficult. So that was kind of one of the factors that I ran into right away. And then I had actually been querying Earthbound at the same time as Glass Helix. And I had kind of felt like I'd really put it through its paces. Had some really good, feedback from people and stuff, but it was just, fantasy is a huge genre to be trying to break into with in the traditional market.
Mhm.
And I thought there was an audience for it. It was like one of those things where you believe in the story, and I'm like, well, indie, like this might be a way for me just to dip my toes into the indie side of things. Like having the door open through Stag Beetle Books and seeing all the steps that went into putting a book out into the world. I kind of went, oh, wait a minute, like that's not out of the realm of what I could do. And so that was the other, like kind of the next sort of piece of the puzzle where I was like, maybe I'll just use Earthbound as a learning experience. So I'll just take the pressure off. I'm just gonna take this story that's sitting on the shelf anyway, and try to see if it will find an audience. And then kind of the third part of that was just also recognizing that it let me have the kind of creative control, and that I was already doing the marketing. Like the hard part for me, I'm not I'm not naturally like a super charismatic out there marketer, like trying to learn how to do content and stuff like that has really stretched me in terms of social media and learning the backside of all this. But I was doing that anyway for Glass Helix, and I thought, okay, if I'm already doing it anyway, and with a small press, you're likely doing a lot of that heavy lifting of marketing. It was just like a few of those pieces all lined up, and I thought, what the heck? So I had the manuscript written. I had everything kind of, set to go, and it was just a matter of taking the leap. And yeah, it's been like a huge learning process, kind of like in the last couple of years, but really deeply satisfying to be able to put out something that I feel very proud of. And surprisingly, just because I'm not always an optimist, I was just like, it's just practice, whatever. And then it was really resonating with readers and finding this sort of readership and people that were excited about it. All of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, okay. I knew I loved this book, and I knew I loved this story, but to have other people kind of echo that back all of a sudden was just invigorating and really life-giving. And it spurred me on. It was always going to be a duology, but they honestly, the readers from Earthbound have carried me through getting Skysworn out into the world for sure.
That's very cool to hear, because I think you do great with the social media stuff. Even today when I got tagged in a reel, I was like, you could tag someone in a reel? I'm horrible with it. So I think you did a really good job along the way. You put out
thanks.
Very fun to watch. So I'm sure that was a learning curve, and maybe not something you were expecting to do going into it, but I think you did a very good job of it. So kudos to that.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's part of it too, right? It's maybe not, it's the not expecting, my sister's an actress. She's, does theater and has always been the one that you put in front of the camera and on the stage. So that's never been where I'm like, I'll let you go do that. I'll just sit and write books. That sounds great. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. There's more to there's a flip side to this whole book writing thing. But I think what always kind of, gives me the courage to keep trying and keep pushing myself into those uncomfortable spaces is that you spend all this time writing these stories that I truly I'm so passionate about doing, that to drop the ball because I'm nervous about something just seems like a real shame. I don't want that to be the story, that I don't try to do something because I'm nervous. So that's kind of, I do a lot of things scared. That's kind of
at least you do them, though. That's very inspirational and cool, especially because I think it seems to be working out
Thanks.
pretty well. I got recommended this book a while ago, Earthbound, that is, when I was with the blog SFFI, and you have legions of fans in that chat. There was too many people to name, but I saw the cover, and I think people were doing a buddy read at the time, and I was like, oh, they were like, yeah, we're doing chapters 1 through 12 in the next week. And I was like, Jesus, I can't do that. But as I was reading it, I see why. because
Yeah.
this was one where I didn't stop reading. I had it on the Kindle and I was up just clicking and clicking and watching TV. You know, I was sitting with my wife, she's watching TV, and I'm just not blinking. And then, you know,
Yeah.
being like, what happened? Um, this
Yeah.
was a very good book. So
Oh.
before I even dive into Skysworn, can you just give a little bit of background on Earthbound? I'm popping up the cover. I'm sure it's right in front of you as well.
Yeah, I can see that. That's awesome. Yeah, so okay, basic premise. I kind of pitched this book as Way of Kings meets Dune. So like the magic system is based around oaths and the promises you make, and if you make certain promises and follow certain rules, you can be gifted with supernatural power to protect those around you. And the world kind of premise is it's a second world. So not Earth, somewhere else. And there's these creatures that can liquefy Earth and they move through the ground. And so everything is unstable. So that was really like, yeah, that's kind of like the seed of the whole world is this unstable, unpredictable ground that people are living on. And it's forming kind of everything about their society, really, in a lot of ways. And then it's following, you know, we kind of right off the bat meet a fellow that had these powers and doesn't any longer. And so you're kind of wondering why he doesn't and where that goes. And that kind of leads from there into the whole story.
Yeah, and that's a very good description of it because I had the Dune right off the bat when you first see the Earthbound in the very beginning, which, by the way, awesome move putting that right in the beginning because
Yeah.
you're instantly hooked in. Like as soon as
Yeah.
that happened, I'm a big fan of like the fast starts and
Yeah.
everything like that. So it didn't get faster than this because instantly
Yeah.
it's like, what's happening? Why? You instantly want to keep going.
Yeah.
Great move on that part.
Oh, thank you.
But I guess the next thing I was very curious about, because like you said, it's all different oaths that you swear, and you know the different ones that you know the different words you say will give you powers, and it really kind of locks into something. So I wanted to ask, what made you decide to have oaths be so integral to the story? Because especially in this day and age, you see a lot of stories where it's oath breakers and all this
Yes.
stuff. And nothing really happens. It's just like you broke your oath, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's it. So it was like
Yeah.
really refreshing to see that type of promise mean something again.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's cool. I think it's so the whole inspiration. I think it's funny because I actually I didn't read Sanderson until after I had like for the first time. And until after I'd actually drafted Earthbound. And then I was like, oh crap, he's already done all these promises. I was like, Sanderson's already done it. What am I going to do? But I just leaned into it and I thought, oh, that just means good marketing for me because people that like that sort of, you know, that there's a promise that means something. But the original idea actually came from, for the magic system, came from the story of Samson, like the old Bible story that you kind of get in Sunday school or whatever. And I don't know what brought it up, but it was kind of this idea that when I went back to do the research on his story, he was part of this order, and they legitimately like he had to follow certain rules and do certain things, and his power was linked to that exclusively. Like it was not about his morality at all. And I thought that was just a really intriguing idea because it's so vulnerable. Like there's, you know, you got superpowers, but if you do the wrong thing, it's gone. But as long, like it sounds fairly easy, like just don't do these things and you'll be fine. But I think we're, you know, flawed humans and put in sticky situations in this particular story where it's like you have, you know, a few places to turn. So I just thought made it for a really intriguing sort of premise for a magic system. And then I grew up with parents that like drilled into my head that's like our actions have consequences. And so I don't know, I just thought, I'm like, oh, this is a really interesting way to like play out how our actions have consequences, whether our intentions are good or bad, or, like sometimes it doesn't matter, but there are consequences no matter what we turn and choose. And that was always like kind of the lesson was like, for good or bad, our choices have consequence, like in our life. And so, I was just playing around with a lot of those sort of ideas more than any set sort of path on it. But I just wanted to see with all of that sand in the sandbox, what I could do. So.
And it all came together really nicely. I'm saying nicely, super vague because I'm going to get more into it. That's the most basic word of all time.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
But I thought the way that the characters were done was really the high point of this book, and what took all of the things that went into it, the religious order that they're a part of, the sky itself, the magic store, everything like that really just relied on the characters, which I think is the strongest part of it. I wanted to ask, do you, because this was very different for me, because I went in with no backstory or anything like that, and I was expecting a straight up, epic fantasy story, but there were some great sci-fi elements to that. There's the romantic subplot to it. How would you categorize this story? It's a hard.
It's a hard one.
In-law the other day, and I was like, "Well, it's like fantasy, sci-fi, romance, action." I was like, "It
seriously." And I think this might have been. I like not to put words in people's mouths, but this might have been part of the issue with trying to find a traditional publisher for it. Is that it's like sometimes it's about how marketable it is, and I think this is a fantastic story, personally, but I think sometimes it's about whether it can sell because we can tell people exactly what to find. And so I do think that's been a bit of a tricky wicket for me. So I do say that it's a science fantasy, which actually is kind of, I'm finding is maybe my sweet spot. Like Glass Helix is marketed as a sci-fi dystopian romance, but it is also probably arguably a science fantasy story. And all I can really, and then with this romantic subplot that also like, I can't really categorize it as romantasy. They're not spicy stories. They're not stereotypical, happy ever after. So it's not going to fit a formula that matches that genre. But I feel like there's a lot of crossover appeal. So I've been like trying to test different sort of things and like how I pitch it so that to encompass it. It's something I'm still working on really like, anyway. So, science fantasy with a romantic subplot is what I've been going with.
I think it's perfect. Cause like Amanda said, that was a sweet spot hit. Especially for me as like, a guy reader, and I'm not familiar enough with romantasy. I'm not talking bad about it or anything. I just haven't read enough of it. But I feel like the 2 or 3 other plot lines that were going on throughout this story almost took precedent over the romantic subplot, and the romantic subplot was really fucking good, where it corresponded with everything else perfectly. Like that thread was needed there to make the decisions in the other 2 plot lines going on have that emotional impact to it. I feel like I'm giving you major kudos as a writer on that, because that was my favorite part of the story, which, it could have gone the other way. So it was very funny because I haven't read, like I said, like romance in a while. And I remember when the, the plot kind of diverged, and it, I feel like I'm not giving spoilers away for book 1.
No, you're doing good. You're doing good.
Fair game. But when the second couple gets together in a little bit, it almost reminded me. At first, I was like, okay, so it's a love triangle, and then when it happened, I was like, oh my god, this is giving me like a little bit of the movie Pearl Harbor vibes. I don't know if I'm gonna like this, and instantly taken and switched, and everything was so much better just because of how strong the characters were and the subject matter that was going on, not just with them, but with the secondary characters and the major plot line. there's some heavy subject matter in here.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask how you chose to tackle it because there was, one scene where, again, no spoilers or anything, but miscarriages mentioned and
Mhm.
some really heavy thematic stuff in there. But it
Mhm.
was handled very tastefully. How'd you go about doing that and kind of threading that line where it was something that helped advance the plot and didn't seem like gratuitous or almost like a plot
Mhm.
device?
Yeah, that actually, I think that's many drafts is the easy answer. Like there was just like there's always the kind of like idea, but I think sometimes you push and you go a little too far, and then you kind of like you pull back a bit. And I think particularly with that part of the scene is that I didn't want it to be a plot device. Obviously, like it's too impactful for too many people. Um, so it needed to have like the proper weight to it. And yet like you also need to like acknowledge and move forward, which I think that was the tricky part. I felt like that was a big driving force in Skysworn, is that I wanted to make sure that some of those like threads that had been plucked landed in book two,
Mhm.
and were acknowledged kind of throughout the conclusion. uh, Again, to just kind of like, I don't know, honor the fact of like what that weight and the cost of those sort of experiences in someone's life actually hold. Um, yeah, and it's good to hear that for you that landed. That is like some of those things are like the things that you worry about as a writer, just wanting to make sure that you like do them justice and that you're not just being trite with something that's obviously impactful to other people.
Mhm. No, that definitely, yeah, like Manda said over here, that definitely landed.
Mhm. Amanda.
A big proponent
Mhm.
of me
I know.
starting to read this. And that, like I said, she was one of the people a year ago who was like, "Stop what you're doing." And I'm glad I did. I missed the initial burst, like I said, but
Yeah,
I am on the train, so I'm happy
yeah.
about that. As far as the influence that went into it, I know when you were talking about what the pitch was, it was the Sanderson, the Dune, um, that type of stuff. But what was the biggest challenge you had to take those influences and make such a unique world to it? Because this, when you're reading it, it feels like you could be watching this on like Hulu in 2 years from now. I'm saying Hulu
Yes.
because they're the only ones who really haven't like fucked up any adaptations yet horribly.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna give you Hulu because
Okay, perfect.
but how'd you go about outlining the story and creating it to make it so unique and this it feels very unique to you and your writing style,
Mhm,
especially the more I discover about you.
mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. I think, I think my product like, my writing is a product of all the things I've always loved. And so, like, to me, what's cool, like, I'm a stupid Star Wars fan, like, so just which and a big Timothy Zahn fan and huge influences there, and then obviously, later coming to Brandon Sanderson. And like I'm a chronic rereader. I'm more than like um somebody that reads really, really widely. So I end up like, with Star Wars, like I just went down a rabbit hole and lived in lived in a galaxy far, far away for years, like, and read all these different stories within this universe. Um, I think what that does has given me my own mind is just this sense of like that anything's possible. And what I really enjoyed about writing Earthbound was that I just kind of like, I don't know, took the shackles off a little bit. I was just like, what? I just play what if, in my brain. That's kind of like where story ideas come from. So I think you can sense the flavors of like the things that I love in the tone of the book, in the colors of the book. But the premises generally are just like the premise for Earthbound literally came from me driving to work, and there was like a misty farmer's field. We lived in an agricultural area, and there was this big like lit like kind of like a tipped over tree with a torn up root
Hmm.
um, in the middle of the field, but it was foggy, so you couldn't see anything. You just got this big root. Like, man, that would be like really terrifying if you could just have like monsters come out while you're working in the field, you know, like, and then literally like the rest of the drive to work, I was like, well, how would you deal with that? Like, how would you actually still farm? Because you're still going to need food, you know, like that's just where the story began for me in terms of like the world. And you know, kind of same happened with Glass Helix and other stories that I've created where it's just I'm playing what if. And I feel like, yeah, you play what if and then you try to make it cool.
That's so awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's what I love to hear. What inspires, you know, the stories, and just seeing like a
Mhm.
root, like I'm sure gigantic hole is underneath the mist, but it's
Yeah,
it's very
yeah,
cool that something like on a drive to work all of a sudden is like such a passion, and you know,
mhm,
becomes such a huge part of your life, and you know all
yeah,
the years along the way, and it's just like, what if that tree didn't fall? You know,
yeah.
it's like kind of
What
crazy.
if?
Yeah, yeah, more what if.
Now they've got a whole nother story.
A comment coming in from Chris saying there's some great Star Wars Legacy novels. Have you
Mhm.
read any of those?
Not not Legacy, I don't think, unless he's see, they've changed things with what's canon now and what's Legacy. Um yeah, I went down a lot of like all of Zahn's old books. If they're considered Legacy now, Chris, you can let me know. But um love them. And yeah, forever those will be like the peak. And it's actually interesting because if you have read those books, then I would say that Darius has some of like those flavors and colors of Thrawn. You know, like that was definitely in like in the mix of like as you're making a new character, um, pulling from like my absolute favorite sort of Star Wars character of all time. So
Nice, interesting, because he shows up in book two, especially as a new POV, which I'm going to jump
mhm.
into. Wow, he's reprehensible.
Oh
Which
yeah,
it was a lot of fun to read. Um,
yeah.
I'm I'm gonna put a pin in that and then go
Okay.
back to that in a little bit because I'm gonna talk about Skysworn also. Um, as
Ah,
far as the
sorry, I think my phone just hijacked my earbuds here.
testing.
There we go. Sorry.
Okay.
I should have put it on AirPlay, but it just yeah, hijacked on me here. There we go. AirPlay mode.
So this is a good comment here, which kind of goes with what I say. Favorite villain of the year so far, which
Yeah.
I kind of agree. It's again, I'm going to jump back into it in a little bit, but I did just want to see also because we're talking Star Wars. Are you
Mhm.
a Star Wars show guy person?
Mixed. Some of them, yeah, some of them wholeheartedly. I really enjoyed The Mandalorian. Boba Fett, I was like really disappointed with some of the plot points, but enjoyed some of the episodes. I think they did Cad Bane kind of dirty in that series. Um, yeah, some of them I haven't even touched. I didn't watch The Acolyte. My daughter watched it and she just warned me off. And she's like, don't waste your time.
Or
Um, loved Andor. That
I
reminds
need
me of like some of the good books, like the with the really like strong socio political sort of themes and stuff. I just yeah, loved that series. So yeah, kind of mixed. Like I'm always excited to watch a Star Wars show just because like at the end of the day they're usually fun, you know, like
Mhm.
and sometimes they're just their own kind of like cheesy goodness or whatever. But for
Mhm.
ones that really like I feel do the world justice or the universe justice are like ones like Andor and
Mhm.
Mandalorian. Yeah.
Man, I think I only saw the first season of Mandalorian. Everyone says Andor's amazing, and I feel
Mhm.
like my problem with it is I always try to start it at like 11:30 at night.
No, yeah. It's one you watch on a day off
Mhm.
when you like you just have time to be like slow and just like mellow because it
Mhm.
is like it's one of those slow builds and you're like okay like why are we learning all of you know like why is this important and why is it because
Mhm.
it is not like a off to the races sort of plot in both seasons it
Yeah.
really it has a slow build to it but the payoffs are just fantastic yeah
Yeah,
really
that's
good.
what I always hear, and that's why I'm always like, I don't even know if I should mention that I haven't watched all of it because I started and I've seen the same scene in the bar, and where he
Yeah.
gets jumped at the very
Yeah.
beginning like 70 times because I just keep watching it, and then I wake
Yeah.
up 2 hours later and I'm like, this show
Yeah.
sucks. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, no, you're
Yeah.
just doing it wrong.
Yeah. And I didn't watch the like even season 2, like I didn't watch it right when it came out either. Like I knew I needed to wait till I was in the right sort of headspace and mode and then come to it. I think that's the part of like some of these big fandoms that's always nerve-wracking for me because it feels like if you're not enough of a fan, you're going to be like, you're going to somehow fail the quiz and be kicked out of the fandom. And Star Wars, I think, can feel a little bit that way. Like some people are really, there's a bit of gatekeeping that goes on. So I just feel like in any of the ways that we can just love and enjoy these series, I think is fantastic. So that's why I'm like, I don't really hate on the movies or, you know, maybe pieces that I don't absolutely adore the same way. But, you know, like there was things like my favorite character of all time, and then they bring him into this new, you know, kind of Disney universe. You know, I'm gonna have feelings about it, but I think that would have been, yeah, I have feelings about it, but it doesn't mean that it was wrong. It was just not necessarily where I envisioned it going, sort of thing. Yeah,
So it happens.
Yeah,
we all have what we want in our head.
Yeah.
But
well, and I think especially with like any sort of like you were saying, like TV adaptations, yeah, that is always a really like.
It gets sticky.
I think it gets sticky, and I think, you know, there's a reason why we there's so few that we really hold up as like, hey, they did a good job with this one. Because we fall in love with these characters and they exist in our heads and our hearts, and so to see them like explicitly out in the world, you're like, no, that's not right. You're not him or her, you know.
Yeah, and you can't just be like wrong.
Yeah. At least it doesn't go over so well when you're in the theater.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny that we're talking adaptations because one of the things that I saw in my head as I was reading it, book 1 is the Earthbound themselves, and they jump off very quickly in the beginning. You know, the creatures that dig through, and they can go through everything pretty much but stone. But besides that, they show up a couple more times and almost play like a looming background, you know, threat behind all of this. That's the existential threat that all of them are dealing with. What made you want to take that species, I guess, I'm going to call it a species. That's we'll go with that. That threat, that species, and have them be not the main one, because there's a lot of other groups kind of vying for power in this world, and they almost drop to the background. Like when they pop up occasionally, you're like, oh, I forgot about those things. Do you think that's just because that's a really unique, fun monster, but dealing with the human and personal aspects is a lot more interesting and fun to deal with as an author?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I think, you know, I think part of it with monsters, like obviously they're a big part of why they're there is because I think they're cool, you know, like, so that was definitely part of it. They're a danger. They're an ongoing threat kind of like in this world. I think it was just interesting because sometimes the more dangerous things are us, you know? And so it was like, yes, like we have these natural things in our world that can hurt us or harm us or destroy things or whatever. But it's usually, you know, we have to be more aware and worried about our neighbor. or actually not even our neighbor, I should say, probably the powers that be, you know, like in this particular scenario, you know, so, but just, sometimes it's other people that are more dangerous. So, and whether that was like intentional or just kind of grew, like I am a discovery writer, so it often is just, you know, it's kind of how it flows and stuff like that. But they never were going to be the main villain or like the main kind of conflict, just because they are this world. They are of this world. They are part of this world. So this is like a threat that they have to face, sort of thing.
Yeah, and the world that they're dealing with, you know, the oath that they swear to the sky, they, you know, the two main people that we're seeing in this story, Knox and I always pronounce his name wrong in my head. How do I
Yeah.
pronounce it?
It's Terran. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yes, two overseers who have sworn the oath to the sky and have the power to protect their group that they're with. And I wanted to ask the religious aspect that goes into it, the way that they are worshiping a deity, and especially more that we find out in book 2 from Darius's POV. What did you base that kind of religious order on? Because
Yeah.
we start to see a lot more shadowy stuff going on behind the scenes, which
Yeah.
was great. Like when that curtain gets peeled back and his first POV shows up, crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I wasn't modeling it after anything specific. I was trying to make it true to the world, and to the magic system. So I was, there was a lot of just like, again, going, okay, if this is where we get power, then, what are we going to believe about it? What are we putting our faith in? What are we trusting? What would be the, conflicting thoughts, like even as like trying to like play, like say somebody like Darius and his perspectives of the sky and the power that they hold, and all of that compared to somebody like Knox, who's more of like a believer, somebody that's more a little bit more cynical, maybe with like Terran. It was just kind of fun to like make it up without feeling like, and explore it without trying to draw any direct parallels. Like it was kind of one of those weird things where I was like, as I was writing more and more, I'm like, oh, there's some very strong parallels here in my mind. And I was like a little bit scared of them. And so I kept kind of like trying to pull back. I'm like, no, I don't want to write parallels. But then I just kept on kind of putting them through that filter of like what's true to this world and what's true to these characters, like each individual character. And tried to let them each kind of find their own conclusions. And then hopefully as readers, like that paints your own picture of what this world is, sort of thing. But it was tricky. It's tricky. It's still one of those places where I'm like, don't know how successful it was, but I think that's what I was definitely navigating, was trying to write something that was at least honest to to the characters. So, yeah.
I think that was a really good answer. It leads into my next question because I thought you did a great job with it. I mentioned a little bit ago that I thought the character work in this was probably the strongest aspect of it, along with the writing. But the way that you build the whole backstory of the world, how do you balance the world building with the character development? Because this will be the last question for book 1, then I'm pivoting. But the three POVs that we have in book 1 are so unique, and each of them have their own voice. They all feed off of one another. And even though it turns into the love story, the love triangle, it doesn't feel like any of them are kind of faking it for a story. It feels like you could jump into any one of their minds and be like, this is how a real person thinks and would behave in this situation. So how did you toe that line to have those mannerisms go along with the world that you were building?
Again, I think, it's like, I think that's that, like, when I read and watch things, my biggest pet peeve as like a reader or a viewer is when it feels inconsistent, and when something doesn't feel honest or true to who you've presented the character to be, when we all of a sudden see behavior that doesn't align with who we knew them to be. And like a great example is is Luke Skywalker in the latest trilogy that they put out. He's old man and he's gone off to be a hermit in another world. I didn't feel like it was true to who we knew Luke to be. And there's a really good argument to be made that here's the trauma and this is why. But I never really felt like it was convincing enough, right? So then it's just like asking us to suspend our disbelief for this choice, and especially when it's a pivotal choice, like we see in Earthbound. To me, it's really important that the characters we know why they're there. So I think a lot of that, again, was many, many drafts and a lot of refining. I like my process is, I do draft a lot. So I draft, a really rough copy and my first reader reads it. And so I get feedback and we talk through it and they're like, oh, actually, when I read this, it came off more this way. Okay. So then I have that outside perspective that can be really helpful in going, okay, that's not what I was intending, for you to think or feel there. So then that helps me kind of like know how to readjust. And so beta readers are like an absolute critical part of my process, particularly, in this season of indie, where I don't have thousands of dollars to be paying editors over and over and over and over again, So it's just like, for me, being able to really work through and find what's true for each character in conjunction with my readers has been, just a vital part of like how everything comes together. And I think, I write what I want to read, and I love character-driven work with interesting worlds. And I think, why I love Sanderson's Way of Kings isn't, some of the cool stuff is cool and I like it, but what has like connected me to that story is the character work, right? Like, and how invested we become in some of those characters and how they grow and change and move. Like, that's what gets me in those stories. All the different magic and all the different stuff that he has is amazing, but that's icing on the cake to me. I'm very much like a character driven person. So I feel like often my world is filled in as I go. Like, when people are like, Kate, there's a hole here. And I'm like, oh yeah. Sometimes I forget the scene, and they're like, where are they standing? Oh, right. Yeah. Because I can get a little too narrow. So I feel like in drafting that helps me flesh out everything else. And then, often you discover something about the world that then does impact the characters, which is even cooler. You get that interplay happening and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like that's why I love this story so much, is because, like you said, you're very character driven, and that definitely came across in this. I feel like that it's not an acquired taste, but I feel like, years ago it used to be all plot, like where if you were just if the person's name was character A, I'd be like, I don't care, whatever. And now it's just like, you want to get into like the nuances of that person's head. Like, anyone could write like a cool action scene or something like that, and it just be like that surface level. And I feel like you did an amazing job of having that, because this was a fun read along the way, along with handling the heavy themes that we talked about earlier, and then amazing character work to let all of us jump into their heads and live this along with them. I feel like that was like a trident, a good story, and you kind of nailed every aspect of it. I almost feel bad because I went back and looked at my Goodreads rating, and I was like 4.5, and Goodreads doesn't let you do a 4. But this is why I'm pivoting into this, because I'm very glad, because I really liked Earthbound, and Skysworn was fucking awesome. Like, I feel like I'm showing the cover now because this is what we're going to start talking about, and I feel like this was even a step up, and that's why I feel bad on it sometimes, because I look and it's like, for some reason, Goodreads in the year 2025 doesn't let you do half stars, which is it. But so I had to like mention it, but couldn't give it. And this is a perfect example of why I'm glad I did it, because Skysworn is a 5-star smoker. Oh no, I dropped you. Sorry about that. I don't know why it switched locations, but I'm getting rid of the cover. So what I wanted to start with, how come you decided to make this just a duology? Because I know that me and anyone else who's going to be reading this is going to be like, let's go. Like, I'm in. Was this always something you thought from the end?
Yeah, this is like, I had toyed with it at one point, because I had originally planned to duology, and then as I was drafting, I felt like kind of that oh shit moment where you're like, is this actually 2 books? I was kind of having an existential crisis while drafting and going, oh, do I make it into 3? But at the end of the day, I just thought, you know what, it's going to be a little chunkier, but I didn't feel like it justified the full 3 um, for this particular arc of the story. And but I'm not done with the world, so I felt like it would be important to like cap it. It felt I at this stage of where I'm writing, I want my work to be accessible, you know, that you don't have to commit to a 10-book series, that you can kind of jump in at different points. So that was a little bit of like a kind of like partly this is what this serves this part of the story. Partly a little bit strategic, just because, you know, I'm still at the building stage. And so I have more stories to write and different worlds that I want to explore. And I don't want it all into just one series right now. I want to be able to come back to it. I am excited with some of the ideas that I have percolating for the next kind of season of this world. I think there's a lot more to explore. I think you're right. But I'm hoping to find a way that I can do that, where if that's where you start, that's okay. You know, like, so that you can jump in at different points is kind of my thought, you know.
It's a good thought. This is very accessible.
Mhm.
And I can't stress enough. I'm sure, not annoying, but
Mhm.
because as invested as me and especially other readers who are diehards, like I loved
Mhm.
it. You have fanatics. Um, it's hard to say it, but thank you for only doing 2
Yeah.
and not trying to fill it with bloat and be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"Well, yeah, she made it 3, like, this is a tr," and then be like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that was middle book syndrome." Like, you know,
Yeah.
it kinda tinkers with it a little bit, so
Yeah.
major props on realizing that and
Mhm.
sticking with it and making 2 because it's 2 back-to-back A-plus books.
Awesome.
So very
Yeah.
good move
Thank
on
you.
that aspect.
Good.
Uh,
The funny thing is you don't really know until you start, you know, like you kind of have to leap into some of these things and just trust your gut. And
mhm,
I think that has been the theme of writing Skysworn, was trusting myself to write the story. And it sounds silly that that should be so hard, but that was like the battle.
mhm,
Was like learning to like trust myself, and it was like kind of moment after moment. There was just a few things that kind of snowballed and kind of kept happening where maybe the things that I was looking to make me feel secure weren't there. And so
mhm.
it was just like, and I would be left kind of scrambling, and I had to reorient myself and find I had to actually stand on my own 2 feet and just instead of like, because this is the gift of like having early readers and things like that, is that you get that outside perspective.
Mhm.
But it's also the flip side is you have to learn how to trust your own voice and your own intuition, and that was the hard part with this one for sure. So it's a way like it's super super good to hear that it landed for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, yeah, that's very cool to hear that that was something that you had to like kind of look into yourself and know to trust. Because there were some, again, I'm doing no spoilers on this one because this is freshly new.
Yeah.
But I will keep it super vague. But you know, there were a couple of characters who were together and but not relationship wise, but
Mhm.
physically together and
Mhm.
throughout most of book 1. Um, and they're separate in this. All 3, well, now there's 4 POVs, but the 3 characters from book 1 are all in different locations, which I
Mhm.
thought was a very interesting way to handle, especially a book 2, because you don't get to rely on their relationships together from book 1 as kind
Mhm.
of like a, you know them, like, oh, that's so you, like that type
Yeah.
of thing
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
What made you want to break up all of the people and have them exploring different things?
Yeah. I think that was really like it was that kind of I knew that I'm trying to find the words to not spoil anything.
It's hard.
Okay, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that I wanted to make sure that each character was able to walk the road that they needed to walk. And when I realized that those 2 characters that had been journeying together were no like wouldn't be able to really satisfactorily like get into what they needed to get to together. I think it would have been too pat, you know, like too easy. It would have been, um, I feel like it would have been cringy because nothing would have been earned. And so, um, I was just like, okay, they need to like they need to deal. So I knew in my head as I was like starting to like, draft, I'm like, okay, like I don't know how this is gonna happen. And the evolution of how they part ways that got rewritten a few different times, a few different ways, and a lot of different dialogue as it was like trying to like suss out what's the heart of what's really driving them and each individual their own path. Um and yeah, but it really was, it came down to the fact that I didn't want any of the POV characters to be a tag along. Like to me, it's like if they're a POV, they need to have some autonomy. They need to have some, like purpose arc that we need to like. I didn't want them to just be filler. So they weren't there to like serve, anybody else's story kind of but their own sort of thing. So I wanted to honor their characters enough to give them room to like grow and do what they needed to do. So.
And yeah, along the way, they definitely get to do that. Again, I'm pivoting because I'm not spoiling anything. I feel like they'll kill me. Can I ask just which of the characters is your favorite to get into the head of? Because they're all so unique and so different. But who's your favorite to dive in and handle?
Yeah. I think probably Nox. It's always been Nox.
Nox.
I love Nox. You can trust Nox. I think that's part of it is like trucks. Nox is a very trustworthy like narrator. You know what I mean? Like what he's thinking is also often what he's saying, so that makes him easy to write because he's very sure of himself and he asserts himself. I don't know, like I in my own, kind of mind, he's just so clear. And so if I'm writing a scenario and I plop Nox into it, then I just let Nox do his Nox things, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, this will just roll off. And Terran's much the same, but Amelia and Darius were a lot trickier because what they say and what they think often don't line up. And so then I think those are the kind of like you're really having to it takes a lot of going back and like really refining dialogue and those inner thoughts so that each thing is what I want the reader to be able to follow, even though they're kind of conflicted in their own mind.
Yeah, Nox is, I think, the MVP of both books. He's the best. It's very cool also to hear that Amelia and Darius are kind of trickier to deal with and handle because those two, like I said, Darius is, I think, a new POV for book 2, and Amelia, and those two actually, funnily enough, are playing off each other for a majority of the book. So it's very cool to hear that, the two that not gave you trouble, but are trickier as opposed to a very straightforward.
I stuck them in a room together. Yeah. I put them in timeout. I was like, here you go.
But Darius was such a good POV addition, not just because of what he's doing, as an elder who is the step above overseers and everything. He's one of the leaders of like the kind of, I guess, the inner sanctum of all of them. But he has a personal relationship with all of the other characters going back to childhood. So what made you want to include him and give that whole, the backstory? It was so interesting to read his backstory and why they became overseers and what his journey was along with it and how that influenced what he's currently doing. Because he was great.
Yeah. Originally I thought, just thinking about where the story needed to go and knowing that we were going to need insight into the order, into the how things work. I kind of was like, okay, I think I need this POV, but I didn't have like a really strong sense of how I was going to demonstrate some of, you know what I mean? Like who, like Darius's role in the story. I knew some of those backstory things, but I didn't really recognize how pivotal they would be to his character until I really got writing. And so, he was like one of those ones that was like super interesting to get into. And then some days I worried about myself a bit. I was just like, but in retrospect, it's funny because I worried about myself. I was like, "Ooh, okay, are you okay there, Kate? Let's have a little check-in, sort of moment." Because some of that stuff is actually pretty hard to write, when you're writing things like that. But then I've been reading Jay Kristoff's books, and I'm like, I'm not worried about me anymore. I'm a little worried about him, but I'm not so worried about me.
Yeah, I feel like after writing a couple of those books that you need a wellness check.
Oh, seriously. Yeah, there's a moment I'm just like, oh snap. Yep, okay. And actually, have you read any of Andy Peliquin? He's
I read his first book in his
okay,
series.
yeah. I've only started the second one, but he's another guy that I was like, you make me feel better. Thank you.
It's funny though.
Yeah, it is funny. There's something always really intriguing about having a character that can play devil's advocate, like really, like fully, and that isn't, playing by the same rules as everybody else in the game, sort of thing. That is an interesting thing to be able to write, and fun in some ways. But then, like when they're inflicting pain or they're harming others, that's hard too. So yeah, it's a mixed bag.
it was walking a fine line between doing the political. He was really pulling the curtain back on all of the backdoor politics that's going on into all of this, and at the same time, you're just like, you are a scumbag. Like I really hate you, and then it would flash, them growing up and like early conversations with like Knox and him, and you're like, you used to be okay.
Yeah.
So it was a very fun kind of dual persona where him in the past and what happened to him that made him go that route in the future. I thought it was very awesome that he was included in there, especially to give a little bit of evil to the story, because the other three are very likable. Like even with the love triangle going on, you're like, I like all of these people. I get it. So I think the addition of someone who is very easy to despise, but also serves such a purpose to the narrative was a very fun and good decision. He made for great reading. Infuriating, but great.
Yeah. Apparently, I do that. Like it took some of the heat off of Amelia. I think we gave us somebody else to hate of him more, because I got a lot of people that really didn't love her. But that was another kind of like my own personal goal for that character was just I really wanted to like make sure that even if you weren't a fan of Amelia or her choices, that coming into book 2, you would have a better understanding of maybe just of who she was and where she was going, and which I think we see a bit in Earthbound, but just kind of bringing it to that next level sort of thing where it's like you can begrudgingly go, okay, I feel like she's probably that character that she's all of us in a lot of ways, like she's the one that isn't picking all the right doors and checking the right boxes, and so then we're like, oh, we're all mad at her, but it's more like that's probably all of us. I want to be Nox. I'm not a Nox character, you know what I mean? Like we all want to be the hero character, but yeah, I think some of the other characters may be more reflective of most of us.
The other, I always like her until Magnus reads it to me. I haven't listened to the audiobook, but it's very fun to see the universal praise that he gets for his narration.
Oh yeah, he's so good. He's so good.
It was funny. One of the other things that I was mentioning was how good the writing itself was that really kind of drove the story home. I like asking this question because I am a non-creative person. Whether it's like writing, art, I fuck up stick figures. I can't do anything. I know that you said you do a lot of outlines. You have the beta readers, but when you're writing, and whether it's emotional or insightful, anything like that, when you're done with a sentence, a paragraph, whatever it is, do you know right away where you're like, that came out nice? Like I hit that one really hard, and it was like it works. Or does it take a little bit of, kind of reflecting or someone to point it out to you to be like, I just crushed that?
I think I second guess myself a lot is what ends up happening. But really, there's a feeling that you get when something comes out as it's supposed to feel. And so like even like I love the final rounds of edits because there'll be these lines that have eluded me through the previous 12 edits. You know what I mean? Like, and you're like, yes, I want this to hit. And it's just not like, it's close. I'm saying the right things, but I'm not saying it the right way yet. And then you find the words, and I can't say the line, but there's a line that was very a late addition to Skysworn. And just about every ARC review that has been sent to me has that line quoted in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those ones where I'm like, yes, like, yes, I knew it. Sometimes I don't, like, I'm surprised by, different lines that stick out to people and stuff like that. But I do think that you get a feel for like, okay, it just feels right. It's like, and I still cringe at the ones that never quite made it, like, that's like, I love listening to the audio. I love hearing how Magnus, he doesn't just read, he puts a lot of emotion. Like it doesn't have sound effects and everything like that, but he is a voice actor and is fantastic. And so hearing how he interprets a line is always super exciting. But the flip side of it is that I have to hear every line that I wrote, and inevitably you're like, oh, like you pick it apart. But I think for the most part, like when you do find those like lines that just sing, that's part of the magic, and that makes you want to keep going for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing that. That always popped into my head because I would I was a big music guy along with a reader, and it makes you wonder, like, I'm a big jam band fan, like Grateful Dead, that type of stuff. And when they would hit like certain pockets and play, like, I always wondered if they just like walked off stage and were like, fuck yeah, yours. Yeah. Or if it's like, oh, we kind of did okay that night.
Yeah.
So I like asking you guys, like authors, that to see if you feel it like as soon as it comes out. Like, I feel like some of the lines that you put on there, I would hit the period and just be like,
done.
Right, we're good.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like, it is funny because I can't remember who. Anyway, an author had posted this the other day about how like they started, like you start off really confident. Oh, I was talking about this with Manda. There's a special name for it if she's still here. And it's this phenomenon like that in our ignorance, we're like overconfident. But because we're like, that gives us the impetus to really start creating or doing whatever we're doing. And then we kind of fall down into this slump of like knowing that we don't know anything, which is a really hard place to be. And then you like slowly climb up, and it's like this road to mastery. But even when you like have mastered your craft, you still are aware that there's more to learn. And so you never actually really like reach that place of like ignorant confidence again. I kind of love that because it's like, there's parts of it, but and it does make sense. I feel like even just like my own ability to just leap into some of these things was definitely out of like, it has to be that ignorant confidence where I'm like, here we go, so thank heavens for it. But I kind of laugh because I feel like I didn't get quite the same measure of that as some people, because they were like, oh yeah, I had to be taken down a few pegs. I'm like, I don't know. I'm pretty self-critical. It's something I'm working on. And so like, I am getting to the place, thankfully, where I can like look at a line and be like, yeah, I'm really proud of that. And that's growth for me. That's just like, because I do love these stories, and to be able to like, you don't want to like beat yourself to death over it. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the joy of writing. And so it's learning to like let go of some of that critical mindset and just enjoy like, when you find the words that work, that's fantastic.
And she is popping in the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Thank you, Manda.
I was going to say imposter syndrome, but that sounds way more technical and official.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. She's way smarter than me. We're going to go with that.
Me too.
One of the other big things I wanted to ask, I know we're over an hour now, which is awesome. If you want to check the Blue Jay score,
Oh yeah, somebody check the Blue Jays score for me, but that's okay.
I'll let you do that. I understand the importance.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it actually kind of worked out to what I was about to ask. But
Hmm.
what other hobbies and things like that do you enjoy? I know you mentioned that you were a mom. How do
Hmm.
you go not out of your way, but how do you make sure to kind of keep yourself focused on what you need to do
Hmm.
in your author career, along with all of the many challenges and everything that comes with being a mom?
Yeah, and life. Yeah, I think that balance and trying to find a balance is always it's a moving target for sure. Like, I started writing. It wasn't full time. I was working. But like, I don't know what would be the word, like kind of writing with purpose. Like, I'm going to finish this book and publish it. Started writing 7 years ago or so. And so, like my kids were obviously a lot younger then. And writing was like this thing that I had to squeeze into the corners of a day. And so it was, I'd get up really early because I found if I was writing in the evening, my kids were like, "Mom, why are you never hanging out with us in the evening?" Um, so it was like with each season of our like family, it was finding a new place to tuck writing into. And then I got quite sick in 2020, and that has been like become an ongoing chronic sort of thing. And so um, that also changed, like my rhythm and my ability and my capacity. And so, it's I deal with chronic pain and stuff. And so it's like when that starts flaring up, it can derail everything,
Mhm.
So it's, um, I've learned that it's really important for me to have some form of consistency. And so whether that's like I need to visit my writing often. But I also learned that for me, it can't be a rigid structure, like it can't be, oh, you have to write 2,000 words a day, or you have to write for 5 hours a day, or you have to even write every day, like I need the flexibility of like, I'm going to, approach it and see what I can do today and in the spaces that I have to do it. Like, so it really it's trying to like hold a structure very loosely. I'm a jello. Be jello, like have some wiggle room, but also stand up, like hold together or something. I don't know. It's a really poor analogy, but like it's just there is a bit of give and take with it. And now my kids, my oldest is graduated, my youngest is graduating this year.
Mm.
So I'm, kind of staring down the barrel of like a whole new sort of home life, family life, So this year's, yeah, crazy busy. And next year probably won't be the same way. So, as they kind of head out the door and do their things. So um I'm anticipating and I'm hoping for more writing time, but we'll see how it goes.
And speaking of that, do you have anything else in the works, or is this still just fresh off an awesome release? Now the ideas are just percolating, and you're going to see what comes next.
um a bit of both. I do have something in the works. Whether or not it will work, well, we're waiting to see. So and then I have a project that's been sitting on the back burner. Actually, I just looked over and there's all the post-it notes with my ideas on it. So um it's kind of like a sci-fi Blade Runner vibe sort of. I'm sure there is some sort of weird fantasy. I think I can't get into all of it, but yeah. So I think there is my gut feeling is that would be next, just because it's been waiting on the back burner for a while and it feels timely and so. But I never know. I think I'm one of those people that it's just like, okay, when that idea really takes hold and I get going, it's not until that point that I know that that's the project that I'm going to be doing. So
Yeah. Off to the races once it hits.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to everything coming out next. I had to go back and read your first book actually, but I
Yeah.
am forever grateful for Amanda and the rest of the
Aw.
people in that chat. You know, not demanding, but forcefully suggested question, I will say, that I
I
jumped
see.
into. So,
I need to like somehow royalty share with those guys because they've like single-handedly helped me find so many new readers. It's just like, and it's communities like that, right? Like it's readers and bookstagrammers and I haven't cracked the code on like algorithmic sales or advertisements or anything like that. But I when you talk about like, okay, well, what do you have to bring to marketing a book? I'm like, well, I just like chatting and talking with people. I have the book and I like people, and so like maybe we can talk about the book, like that sort of thing. So it's maybe not the like most explosive way to get a book out there, but it's people like Manda and you and these communities that then talk about it. Like I never want people to undervalue what their excitement means to an author, first of all, and the power that it has. Like, yeah, I'm always so blessed and thankful for like people that continue to talk about books and share about books and talk about my books and share about my books, because it's just like we're little players in a big pond here, sort of thing. And when people love your story and are talking about it and sharing about it, that's like that's the lion's share of the work is helping another reader find it. That's so cool. It really, like, that's such a gift. And I'm glad, like, hopefully one day I'll figure out some of those other pieces too. I'm still learning and growing, but I do love that you can like just use community and be a part of community, and that can be a way that indies can connect with a whole audience, just by connecting with reader after reader after reader on an individual personal level in a real way. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I really appreciate you joining me tonight. I know I asked, I think, well, we first started talking in like maybe like June when I was like first starting, and I was like, when's book 2 coming? I got the October nod and didn't say anything. I didn't know if that was widely known, but I kept that in my back pocket. And as soon as I think I saw your first social post, like coming in October, I was like, you want to be on this, right?
Yes.
Like, I was like, great. So
that was so good.
The same way that you feel about readers, I feel about you wanting to be on this. I think this is a really cool way to like get the word out there as well. And it's like we talked about before. I feel like there's much more of a connection to be made from reader to author, whoever to you as the author, and it goes with all creative people on the other end. But it's much cooler to have like a regular conversation where it's kind of flowing and it's so obvious that you can get the passion and creativity and everything that goes into the books from the person themselves. So I feel like that's a lot cooler than that's not knocking it, but like a text interview or something like that. You could read the words, but you don't really get to see like the passion and everything that goes into it. And it comes across very genuine. And if I was on the fence with, okay, maybe I'll check it out, I feel like something like talking to you right now would be like I'm definitely going to. And, I definitely appreciate you joining me and
thank you.
Coming on. So you have a permanent spot here whenever the next book comes out. I'll get Amanda on as a co-host on that one. I'll just sit back, relax, and hang out.
Watch out. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Amanda and I have some good fun conversations. So.
We have a quick update. 3-1 Mariners in the 7th. I know, and we were doing so well.
That's.
I know. They need your help. So I'm going to bite the bullet, and I'll let you go for the night. But again, like I said, it's very easy for me to talk and be genuine when I don't have to hide feelings or anything. Everything I said, I definitely meant, and I can't recommend it enough, and I will keep doing the recommendating. And I stumbled over that word big time, but it's late here.
It is really late there. I saw that you're starting at 9 or something, weren't you? So we're already
I'm
well past bedtime here. Yeah.
I need to go fall asleep to Andor. It's past my
Yes,
bedtime.
that's right. You got to see that opening scene just one more time.
Exactly. But yes, I will definitely let you go. And again, thank you very much for being on, and I appreciate it very much. Everyone in the chat, especially Amanda, along the way. But thank you, everyone, and I'm hoping for a Blue Jays pull tonight. So
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
all the
But
fingers
yes,
crossed.
have
Yeah.
a good rest of your
Thanks.
night, and I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks so much, Pete.